Good morning, everybody. I believe our trade plan is pretty much identical to last night, so this should be fairly easy. Let's double check here. So holding above 312, which is the value high of Wednesday, we could lower that down to the value low now that we've pushed away from it. The value low of yesterday. So we could change that to 06, or you could keep it at 12 to be conservative. Let's just keep it at 12. But we'll keep an eye on 06 as well. So 06 to 12 is the upper level. Holding above that, we're looking for 35 and 60. 35 is that value retrace. 60 is a fib level. And then holding below 87, we are going to look for 260 and 246. So same downward trade plan as yesterday. Yeah, right now we are kind of a lowercase b showing a bearish imbalance. Okay, sorry, yeah, showing a bearish imbalance here. Kind of that one-directional downward pressure. Possibly a little bit of a bulldog on NASDAQ, but our trade plan should be the same. Let me double check. Holding above 967, yesterday's value low. We're going to look for 0.45, the value high, and 112. That is a prior high and a fib level, I believe. And then below 843, we're going to look for 780 and 732. That is I believe that was an incomplete auction. Yeah. Incomplete auction way back from Wednesday the 2nd. Yeah, keep an eye on this 30-minute double bottom, possibly putting in a 30-minute bulldog there. Still showing that lowercase b, same as ES, so we have that bearish imbalance. Lowercase b's, as long as you protect the value high, you are bearish. And as long as you stay below the value low, you are looking for a lower tail extension. All right, here's that trade plan. I do need to step away for like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Had to finish something up really quick. Okay, keep an eye on VWAP here. This is a little bit of a weird situation because you're bouncing into VWAP on ES, but you're failing into VWAP on NASDAQ, so a little bit strange here. VWAP is resistance at 95, but it's support at 920. Turning into a little bit of a sweep on the open, same as yesterday. Yesterday we had an immediate sweep of the high, which ended up being a pretty decent trade. Keep an eye on these 30-minute highs here. A lot of highs around 91, 93, 95. Currently sweeping all of them. I don't think that's the overnight high. Overnight high is way higher because of that early sell-off. Yeah, very nasty open so far. Buyers being trapped. Keep an eye on that support on NASDAQ. There is a ton of bearish delta coming in here, so you're going to need quite a bit of buyers to hold on to that VWAP. By the way, when you guys were joining chat today, did it have like a little pop-up for like the chat rules? I tested out that little function on YouTube. I'm seeing if it's working. It was there, awesome. Okay. A little bit of a bulldog on the 1 minute, possibly. It doesn't need to stay exactly where it is. It cannot go lower than basically that low. That needs to be the low. If it goes lower than that, it invalidates the bulldog. Now, this is a very weird bulldog because it's kind of inside of a inverse head and shoulders. So we have like the left shoulder here. We have the head of the inverse head and shoulders, and then the right shoulder there. So the bulldog is the right shoulder. So it's like a pattern inside of a pattern. But I wouldn't pay too much attention to it if it loses this level right here. If it stays below 88, it's looking pretty weak. You need to start seeing some buyers right here. Get back above 90 as quickly as possible. Looks like the sell pressure is just too strong, turning into a 30-minute sweep once you lost 91. Let's take a look at our local pivots. So we have a bunch of pivots on the bulldog legs there. 86, one at 90, one at 95. 86 again. We have one at 81. We just barely missed that one at 300. Another one at 88. So a lot of pivots at 86 to 88. They like that level. 30-minute failing the trail. We did flip the trail red after that nasty tariff headline last night. So it looks like the most overlapping pivot is like the mid-80s. A lot of pivots on the mid-80s. Typically what I do to make that easier is I have like a four-way screen that has multiple time frames. But to make it easier to see on stream, I just show one at a time. Good morning, Tachi, Patriot, Backpack, and Morris, Jose. Yusa, Bobby, Perfect, C-Mac, Larry. Good morning, Nitro, Scalp, Techie, Keegan, Dark, MLT, Roger, Future, Gregor, Tom, Muhammad, DS, M, Trader, Curtis. Good morning, Eugenio, ZM, Short Buzz, Peter, TK, AT, Roman, James. Good morning, Fernando. Good morning, JC. OD, Blood Unleashed, OVO. Good morning, Tom, Clive, Jeremy. Obviously, no Bulldog. We lost the 88 level. Now, are we going to lose the inverse head and shoulders? So here's a bigger pattern, which is kind of what you would call like a rollover bottom almost. This would be a rollover bottom on probably a higher time frame, maybe like a 15-minute. Let's see. Yeah, kind of like a 15-minute rollover bottom here. We put in a low, put in a lower low, and then put in a higher low. So it needs to hold this 86 level to be a rollover bottom. But that sell pressure is damn strong right now. So it's really struggling to find any buyers. We do have that bearish bias today because of that lowercase b. Tom, if you have access to it, you go to your invite-only scripts on your indicators, and it should be there. If you don't have access to it, there's a couple ways to get it. Discord, website. You can use our Apex code. Yeah, if you have access to it, just go to your indicators, invite-only, and it should be there. Okay, value low coming up at 867, then 840, next level. ES breaking that value low, staying below 287, looking pretty weak. Overnight low is 275, and then 260. No, the C single prints are not filled in, but funny enough, we were just talking about this. What did I say yesterday about these poor lows? Yesterday I said having 4 days worth of poor lows in a row is very dangerous because they could have some kind of bearish catalyst to come down and sweep these lows for liquidity. So we've already taken out one of those poor lows. Now we have 3 left. So keep an eye on this one here, and this one here. I guess it'd be easier to mark them out kind of like this, where these are not taken out yet, and this one is. Sorry, let me pin the trade plan. There you go. Good morning, Scott, Typhoon, Darius, Boat. No, I don't have a NinjaTrader template. I don't believe. I think there might be one in the Discord, but at this point, it's probably outdated because of I haven't used them in what 3 years, two to 3 years, somewhere around there. But I do have templates for Addis and for TradingView. Lowercase b still doing its job here. Bearish pressure is just continuous. Not seeing any buy pressure except for that fake out on the open, nearly identical to yesterday. Yesterday we had a spike up right at the opening candle, turn into a sweep, and then shot down. I covered that in the recap video if you guys watched that. That was one of the good trades yesterday. Good morning, Angelo. Good morning, Ryder. Good morning, Alex, Tamer, Joan. Alex, that'd be kind of up for debate, right? That'd be personal preference. If you prefer doing it on SBX or something like ES. Do those levels update in real time? I think they do. The extension levels, it looks like they do. Which, by the way, funny enough, we were messing with this extension indicator yesterday, and I was talking about how these extensions have been happening quite often recently. Let's go back to yesterday. Let me show you something. If I can even find yesterday. I need to make my chart bigger. Here's yesterday. So it's hard to see, but there's a line right here. The high to the exact tick yesterday was the 200% extension of the initial balance to the exact tick. That was a perfect day to cover that that theory, whatever you want to call it. So those are definitely being watched right now, those initial balance extension levels. Typically 100% and 200% are the big levels. Some people like to use 50% if you want like a short target. No change in trade plan here. Just keep an eye on these EMAs trending downward after that sweep. That sweep trade is still in play here. Not really anything taking you out of it. Next level would be around 75. No, initial balance is almost solely used with the cash hours. Not many people use the initial balance on the full session. One's not better than the other. They're completely different platforms. NinjaTrader is more of like an order flow platform that has access to more advanced tools. TradingView is more of a simple platform that has all the basic stuff. They're slowly adding more of the advanced stuff, but they're just not there yet. Decent buy pressure on NASDAQ. Keep an eye on these EMAs here. Backtesting VWAP possibly. What's the difference between Discord and YouTube? Well, YouTube is only a morning stream. It's only from like 9:30 to typically 11:30. I've been streaming a little bit longer recently to about 12. But typically it's like the first 2 hours of the day. Discord is streaming all day. So I stream until 4 p.m. in Discord. And it also is just like an all-in-one package. You have access to literally anything I've ever created, for the most part, unless it's like outdated and we don't use it anymore. You have access to all my updates, all my indicators, tutoring. There's a bunch of exclusive teaching stuff in the Discord as well. Yeah, the YouTube's just like the free version. The YouTube is my free Discord, basically. Just a little morning stream. That's a big spike in price here. Breaking through VWAP very easily. Keep an eye on VWAP at 94. Possibly giving you another bear flag into VWAP. You could have called that a bear flag into VWAP at 930, but that was a very strong move. So more of a sweep than a bear flag. If it continues up, the rotation to the upside would look for around 98 to 300. Still looks like a possible bulldog on NASDAQ 30 minute. We have that double bottom. Now we're putting in the second half of the bulldog. Second half of the bulldog looks for that bull flag. So you'd have to kind of push up to yesterday's value low, probably fail it a little bit, and then hold above today's value, and then push up. Obviously predicting a lot, but that would be a perfect bulldog if that happened. Okay, here's a potential bear flag in the VWAP. You did not quite hit it, but you missed it by about a point. Pretty nasty price action right now. Not really respecting levels to a T. Very indecisive day, because look at where the open is. The open is right in the middle of our opening range. Shot up, shot down. POC in the middle. Look at our 30-minute candle. Long-legged doji. Very indecisive. Which is not great for the sellers, because the sellers were clearly in control going into the open. Okay, keep an eye on VWAP here. We'll see if it wants to be a bear flag into VWAP on the session VWAP. The problem with this, and it's already spiking right as I'm saying this. The problem with this is NASDAQ is much more bullish than ES right now. You're getting pretty good delta on both. but you're well above VWAP on NASDAQ. So if NASDAQ continues to trend like this, you're going to break through VWAP pretty easily on ES. So this is still playing out to be that perfect bulldog. Double bottom, hops up. If it fails that level, which it currently is, it's failing to the tick. If it continues to fail that weekly open and the value low of yesterday, look for that pullback. That pullback needs to stay above, I would say, 930. Staying above 930 would be a 30-minute bulldog, which is very strong, and could retrace yesterday entirely. That would also line up with filling in the single prints from yesterday as well. Yeah, it's a very indecisive day today. Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable being in any trade, to be honest. It's a very indecisive day. What I call this a 1 minute pinch? Let me take a look. Yes, but it's kind of over. So this would have been a 1 minute pinch from down here. It was actually a pinch in both directions, actually. So kind of the entire day was a pinch. So yeah, good catch on that. So what happened was we had a pivot combo. So we had the gold shading with the 1 minute pivot. That led to a bearish pinch. Both the long-term and short-term momentum were coming down. Then they bottomed out around that negative 20. That gave you a purple shading. Unfortunately, no pivot there, so no combo. Then we started pinching to the upside, and now we topped out on the upside. We hit that positive 20. It doesn't mean that it has to come to an end. It's just like a likely scenario, right? It's a little bit extended. I was looking at the 30-minute here, so I missed that 1 minute 1 minute pinch. I need to go back to watching it in a four-way screen. Yeah, so definitely not a bear flag into VWAP right now. You are holding VWAP as support. Let's see if it wants to fail the high of the cash profile where we started that sweep earlier today. Kind of turning a little bit into a vertical distribution here. So far, not breaking that high of day there, that wick that started that sweep today. Not exactly a rollover or anything like that, but if it starts to sell, then pops back up, and then sells again, it could be a rollover. We did put in a poor high there. A lot of delta coming in to the downside at 95. So here's a good example, and these screens are a lot lighter, so watch your eyes. Here's a good example of how I normally watch the Momo, where I watch it on the multiple time frames, like 1 minute, 5 minute, 15, 30. Time frames can be whatever you want, but those are typically the ones I use. And you can see kind of how it develops. It kind of waterfalls like the bots, right? So like we have that pinch kind of starting on the 1 minute and kind of pushing us up. Then we kind of have that momentum shift on the 5 minute trying to push us up as well. Same thing on the 15 trying to like push us up. And then 30 hasn't really curled yet. The 30 hasn't given you that momentum shift very heavily. It has on the shorter time frames. So like the not the shorter time frames, the shorter momentum. You have the bottom warning, and then you have that pop up in the shorter momentum, but not the longer momentum. But yeah, that kind of window like that, that's normally how I watch these indicators. Same way I do with the bots, where you kind of have that waterfall method where you're looking for the multi-time frame confluence, seeing where the pivots line up and whatnot. So it's just a visual thing. So what happens is, for example, this orange pivot is going to keep extending until another orange pivot is created. So we have not created an orange pivot since that one. So if you look at all this price action here, there is no orange pivot. So it's going to keep extending until a new one is created. It's just a way to keep the chart visually readable. So you see how this blue pivot goes until this one's created, and then it stops. And then this one goes until this one's created, and then it stops. It doesn't mean that there are no longer strong pivots or anything like that. It just is visual. So what I would do is, like, this is a great example on this one. So this one I would not say is completely used up, because you only bounced off it like one time. So even though it didn't keep extending itself, I would still watch that pivot. So I would still like manually sometimes like draw a line from that pivot. If you guys watched my stream back in the day, we used to do this quite a lot. So you can manually extend those. And then if you look at this little pullback right here, we pulled back into that older pivot, right? And then kind of the same thing there with that orange one. We pulled back into the orange one. So the older pivots can still be used. Just because they're turned off doesn't mean they're dead. I would say they're dead like this one here after it's been used a few times. Like after it's already been hit a bunch of times, you don't want to pay too much attention to it. You want to look for newer levels. Same thing with value levels. Like value levels, once they're being used a few times, you want to look for newer value levels, right? Okay, looking at that NASDAQ Bulldog, let's take a look here. So still not really giving you the head of the Bulldog just yet. So we have the double bottom, we have the pop-up, we don't really have the pullback. Still looking pretty bullish if we can hold above this like 95 area. The after hours, the pre-market was very bearish with a lowercase b, right? And we already, right out of the gate, we do not have that continuous sell pressure. We did for about 15 minutes. Going into 9:45. Yeah, that can happen. Like some candles can create pivot lines and then just like turn off right away, create a new pivot. It's pretty rare though. The lines will typically be pretty long. It's just a visual thing. You have to think about, you don't want 1,000 lines on your chart. You only want to pay attention to the most recent ones. But yeah, what I was saying was the overnight was bearish until about 9:45. The morning was also bearish, but then we started going against that overnight. So it's a little bit of an overnight fade. Absorption at the low, was there? Let me see. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit of bearish delta down there getting stuck. Also a block trade down there. There's a little bit of absorption right here at 95 as well. Good morning, SK. Good morning, hello. Not sure if I saw you earlier. So this looks like a waterfall where the lower time frame started a nice little push up and it's being captured by the higher time frames now. It's being taken over by the higher time frames. The 15-minute, the 30-minute are starting to see a lot more buy pressure here. What would I use for NASDAQ? I think I actually have this on NASDAQ. What did I put on NASDAQ? It might be just the same chart. It's 50. I'm using 50 on NQ. So you could probably do 50 or like 25. We're seeing really good delta right now. Delta cluster here, delta cluster there, same level. Delta cluster here. Delta cluster there. Very strong delta clusters on ES today. Yeah, Arnie, we call that a trap, right? So we have a lowercase b trap and an uppercase p trap. I talk about those in my volume profile series, I believe. So those days are one directional. When you start fading them strong enough, they get trapped and they get squeezed. This would be a footprint chart. So it'd be a 30-minute volume and delta footprint chart. Delta's on the left and kind of in the middle, those blocks. And then volume profile on the right. So here's what I was talking about earlier. Sorry if going from black charts to white charts is a little bit bright on stream. What I was talking about earlier was the kind of the waterfall of the pinch, right? So the pinch started on the 1 minute, and then it kind of topped out, a little bit of a pullback in momentum, then kept going. So now we're flattened out at 15. So the 1 minute trend is very stable because the Momo is flattened out at 15. Now the pinch has been taken over by the 5 minute. Now it's being taken over by the 30 minute. And it's starting on the 30 minute, or sorry, the 5 minute, 15 minute, then the 30 minute. So pinch is taken over by the 5, taken over by the 15, and it's just now starting on the 30 minute. Because the 30 minute is starting to see that increase in short-term momentum, and now we're starting to see the increase. Let me zoom in. We're starting to see the increase in the longer-term momentum as well. Still no head on that bulldog. So if we do pop up and then hit this old POC and then pull back, that would put in the head. So at this point, the head of the bulldog would need to protect either the value high of today or the value low of yesterday. So I'd say around 950 is your can't go below level. You can't go below 950 or it invalidates that bulldog. Now it doesn't have to be a bulldog. This could just keep ripping and go all the way back to the value high. We're currently looking at a value retrace trade. So we had the value of yesterday. We built value outside of it, put in a lowercase b. We're fading the lowercase b, creating a value retrace back into that value high. So it's a couple of patterns happening at one time. I have videos on both of these patterns. If you watch my playbook series, they are both playbook patterns. It's an overnight fade and a value retrace. They're both happening at the same time. This is a higher time frame setup. This is not a 1 minute setup. This is like a 30-minute setup. Typically when the 30-minute is taking over, the 30-minute is in a setup, the 1 minute's going to look like this, where it's extremely one-directional. because the higher time frames are one time framing, protecting the lows, breaking the highs, or vice versa. Now keep an eye on the timing here. 6 minutes until the 30-minute candle closes will create single prints going down to 6,300. Our extension levels right now, they are still being adjusted until 1030. But right now, it's 19 and 39. Still pretty dangerous. I don't think the market cares too much right now. But we did leave open 3 poor lows. So we only repaired 1 poor low on that pullback. We still have this one, and this one. Possibly filling in the single prints of yesterday going up to 13. Now this is the part where if we pop up, fill in the single prints, and then kind of stall out, that's going to be a little dangerous because we could basically look at this as like a rollover, right? Put in a high, fail the high, put in a lower high, fail the single prints, and then go lower, right? So in the back of my head, that's like the most bearish scenario. Like I always say, I'm not trying to predict too far ahead, but that is the most bearish scenario that I'm going to keep an eye on. Fill the single prints, put in a lower high, and then go down. Yeah, Dab, so you're kind of misunderstanding LVNs. Because LVNs can do both of those things you mentioned. So the level being a rejection level can reject price 2 different ways. It can reject price by allowing it to just break through that level and not accept it there, not create value there. So it just easily goes to the level, like you said. But it can also do the other thing you said. So it can reject price by hitting that level and then pushing away from it to the downside. Both ways are rejecting that price. As long as price is not building up that LVN, it is therefore rejected. So it can reject it in the favor of the trend or against the trend. And that's why if you think about single prints, if you go back to what I always say about single prints, it's kind of actually, I just said it actually, what I was talking about with the single prints from yesterday. So we can reject those single prints like this. So if you think about these single prints as an LVN, we can reject them by hitting them and then instantly pulling away from them and not building that area up, right? We could also reject them by just pushing straight through them. As long as we don't just sit here and build that node up, we are rejecting them. Cookie, I created the chat rules specifically so people don't ask questions like that. So going forward, now that their chat rules are there, I'm going to start banning you guys for asking questions like that. But because I just added the chat rules, I'll be more lenient. But yeah, don't ask me about my positions and don't brag about yours. There's only 3 rules in chat. I'm hoping you guys can follow them. Hybrid, I used them way back in the day, probably like 5+ years ago. 5 to 7 years ago. So I don't know like what they look like nowadays or any of their new stuff. Back in the day, they were pretty solid. They were one of the first like order flow platforms that were specifically designed for crypto. So they were pretty solid back then. But yeah, I haven't used them in many years. But yes, Cookie, to answer your first question, I have an iPad that is my trading terminal. So you guys don't see my trades on my chart. I take my trades on an iPad off my screen. But to your second question, those are the type of questions I don't answer. If you watch the stream long enough and you understand what I look for and you understand the setups that I'm trading, you can pretty much figure out if I'm in a trade or not. By the way, single print's going down to 300. I only have like 4 or 5 setups that I like to trade. So it's pretty obvious when I'm taking trades. What trading software is good for the iPad? I'm using Trade-Evade. Trade-Evade is web-based, so I can use all my personal accounts and my Apex accounts, and it just fits perfectly on my iPad. It's like a little trading terminal. It's just like a little it's funny, I talk about like not liking hotkeys, and I was in a tutoring session, I think it was like last week, and I was talking about how I press the buttons and do my orders and whatnot on the iPad, and I realized that's basically just hotkeys. I'm pretty much just using a touch screen for hotkeys. But it's not really the same thing because I don't like hotkeys being on your keyboard. Because if you're doing something, like if you're typing a message and you accidentally press your hotkey and then you're in a trade, I try to avoid all that stuff. Yeah, I like just having it on like the iPad, it's separated. I can just quickly take my hand off my mouse, press my buy and sell buttons. It's almost like having a Stream Deck. So if you guys have a stream deck that are typically made for streamers, but you can use them for really anything, a lot of traders like to have a stream deck and turn it into a trading terminal where they can just press their buy and sell buttons on the stream deck. So it is hotkeys, but it's off of your keyboard. So you're not going to accidentally press it. If you guys don't know what a stream deck looks like, let me get an image. I'll show you what it is. They became pretty popular in trading after people realized you could set them up for trading hotkeys. It looks like this. So you can have like a little thing with a bunch of buttons on it. And you can set these up to be your trading buttons. Oh, is that what you do, Roger? Yeah, so does Scalp. Yeah, see, it's pretty common in trading, actually. If you're somebody who likes hotkeys, I would highly recommend it because it takes your hotkeys off of your keyboard. I had a stream deck for years, but I never really set it up for trading. I just used it for like my stream stuff. Was it fairly easy for you guys to set up for trading? Or was it kind of a pain in the ass? Hey, Clive, have a good night, man. Just continuing this uptrend, keep an eye on the value retrace of yesterday, nearly complete. Single prints going up to 13 on ES. Value retrace going up to 45 on NQ. Yeah, Jim, I like having the iPad as like my trading stuff. Because even though I have like a bunch of monitors, I like having it just solely for my trading. Like it's just sitting there as a trading terminal. And like I said, I can just quickly take my hand off my mouse, press a few buttons, and I'm good to go. The only downside I would say, and I do have one of those pens, like the Apple pens or pencils, whatever they're called. Even with that, sometimes it's kind of a pain in the ass to get the exact level that I want. Like if I'm trying to drag my orders around or like get an exact stop loss level or something like that, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But other than that, it's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. It's like anything else. Like takes a bit to set up, but once you set it up, it's good to go. So here's that 30-minute pinch. It's obviously going to be a little bit delayed. The 15 minutes kind of already almost done. The 5-minute is done. So 5-minute pinch has been completed. 1 minute showing a bear div. You can see a very obvious lower high here on the 1 minute. So higher high on price, lower high on Momo. By the way, my candle coloring is on right now, so that's why the candles look a little bit weird. My OTS candle coloring is on, so it's coloring it based on the trend, not based on the actual candlesticks. That bear div giving you a little bit of sell pressure here, possibly looking for that single print going down to 300, putting in a 30-minute sweep, no absorption. This is a combination of that 1-minute bear div as well as the 5-minute pinch kind of hitting its top. So that 950 level that we said earlier on NASDAQ, that's like the needs to hold level for that 30-minute bulldog to still be in play. It now lines up perfectly with VWAP. So if it pulls back, that's a pretty deep pullback on the 1-minute, but the 30-minute could still be a bulldog. So far, beautiful 1-minute bear div. Pretty much calling the top damn near to the candle. Is it strong enough to lose the 24 EMA here? We'll see. I haven't tried giving Athena these 4-way screens. Let's see if it can read the 4-way screens as well as it can the 1. Okay, 24 EMA is being taken out here, so keep an eye on that 8 EMA pushing you down here. 30-minute sweep also currently in play. Keep an eye on that prior low around 96, single print filled in. So that right there goes back to what I talk about with single prints. They are not the reason to enter the trade. You need another reason. They're a good target though. So like right there, the reason to enter the trade would have been the 1-minute bear div. The target would have been the single print. So you're not just blindly taking the single print, which in this case you would have been down about 4 points if you blindly took it. So it's a good entry, it's a good guide, but it's not a it's a good target, it's a good guide, but it's not an entry. You need some kind of entry to take that trade. So it actually did a really good job analyzing all 4 charts. So it gives you a breakdown of each one. And then it gives you a confluence. So it talks about where they're kind of overlapping. So it's saying they're mostly overlapping around 6,300 to 6,303. You have a 30-minute pivot there, and then you have all the trails kind of lining up. Hey, Unleash, have a good weekend, man. I keep forgetting today's Friday. This week kind of flew by. One minute pivot coming in, 5 minute pivot support at 300. So this could be a rollover top, but it's pretty low, unfortunately. Typically with rollover tops, you want that lower high to be pretty damn close to that prior high. But yeah, I would say it's a rollover top. It's just a little bit... It's one that gives you a wide stop. Your stop is pretty far away. Oh, looks like my stream is dropping. I'm good on Discord, though. Oh, I'm not good on Discord. Looks like my internet dropped there for a few seconds. We should be okay. If I randomly disappear, it's probably because my internet been having issues recently, unfortunately. Those are the VWAPs. The green lines are VWAPs. Yeah, hey, that's what I was saying yesterday, man. It seems like a lot of people are having internet issues. It's been storming a lot here recently, so most of my issues are just from the storms. Oh, the horizontal ones? The horizontal ones are stacked imbalances. Those are from delta imbalances. The indicator is literally called stacked imbalance. Putting in another poor high. So our extension levels for the afternoon, 19 and 39 to the upside, 58 and 38 to the downside. So that should mean we have about a 20-point initial balance. which is not true. Our initial balance is 28 points. So those levels are not 100% accurate. Is this first one only a 50%? It was accurate yesterday. I don't know why it's messed up today. No, multiplier 1, 2, 3. Is it taking the... It might be taking the value area instead of the actual initial balance. Let me see. No, it's not taking the value area. It's taking the normal level. $34. Is that more accurate? That's pretty close. It should be 36. No, I guess it is correct because I'm going off the TPO high. The actual high is a little bit lower. Okay, so I think that fixed it. Now it's just a little ugly. Let me fix the lines here. So I had to change it to 2 bars instead of candles. Okay, keep an eye on VWAP here. I'll come back to this in a second. This is the very important level for NASDAQ because it needs to hold this 950 to be that bulldog. If it holds 950 here, it should finish that retrace. This is your main target for the bear div if you took the bear div on the high. Needs to hold 94 on ES, 950 on NASDAQ. So far, tagging VWAP damn near to the tick on NASDAQ, front running it by about 1 tick on ES. Buy pressure so far is pretty strong, getting a lot of buyers at 97.98. Keep an eye on that lower high structure. Needs to break that 24 EMA and the lower high structure to continue that potential bulldog. It is putting in a very micro 1 minute bull div here. You can see lower low, and then higher low. So a little bit of a bull div on the 1 minute lows. You are on the 5 minute trail, nothing really helping you on the 15, 30 minute trail support as well. Okay, so those should be fairly accurate. Right now, our initial balance is about 28 points, so it would be a 28-point extension, which is almost where that is. Not like to a T accurate, but you know, trading's not absolutely perfect. What's the low level there? Yeah, so it's about 28. It's pretty damn close. So 51, 23, 34, 62 for that afternoon extension. Okay, bull div doing its job. This is a beautiful move here, by the way. When you see divergence to divergence. We had one yesterday where the high sell-off was a divergence, and then where it kind of kills the trade is also a divergence. We had the same thing yesterday. I believe it was on a 5-minute. It was... Where was it yesterday? Was it on a 1-minute? It might have been a 1-minute. Oh no, here it was. So you had the bottom divergence here on the 5-minute. Very obvious. Very obvious divergence there. Blue pivot also gave you that bottom trigger. And then on the high, where it killed the trade, was also a divergence. So divergence to divergence. It's always good when that happens. Here's a great example of a trap on the Momo. So when the long-term momentum is pretty flat, and then the short-term kind of gives you that cupping pattern. Like I talk about, the cupping pattern is like the universal signal of a trap. Right now we put in a stair-stepping pivot and we are using it as resistance, unfortunately. If you took that buy off of VWAP, a little bit of resistance here. Not terrible. It's not like breaking the trade. But it's not great. It could be Angelo. My doji method is very similar to order blocks. It's not exactly the same. But they do line up a lot of the times. It's kind of like fair value gaps lining up with single prints. They're not exactly the same, but they're damn near the same. My method is basically, if you think about how I like to trade shifts in momentum. The doji is like the last battle that happened before the shift in momentum. So like if I were to mark out one on the high here, it would be that little candle right there. Because that was like the last battle that happened before it shifted to the downside. It's the turning point, basically. So this is pretty much what we predicted earlier. We don't like to predict too much, but this is what we were saying earlier. So here's the bulldog. There's the pop. There's the head. It can't hold below 950. Holding below 950, which was damn near the bottom to the tick, literally to the exact tick, was 950. If it can hold above that 950 low, this should continue to be a bulldog. If you lose that 950 low, it turns into a value retrace. Hey, Angelo, enjoy your holiday, man. Enjoy your time off. So, a couple things holding us down here. We have that 1 minute pivot. You can see momentum's coming down a little bit. 5 minute, not really anything on the 5 minute hurting you. 15 minute pivot. 30 minute putting in a pivot as well. So, a couple of pivots holding us down here. Yeah, for sure, Angelo. Stay away from the screens. Most of my vacations, I take like 5 days, and I take mostly on weekends. So I usually miss like 1 or 2 trading days, if that. If I was on a really long vacation, I'd probably have to trade a little bit. Um, but yeah, it'd be tough. It'd cut into your vacation a bit. Definitely not what you want to see there as a buyer. That lower high is being protected. That 24 EMA is being protected. Buyers have one more attempt to hold on to VWAP here. I think you picked a good time to go on vacation because there's a lot of craziness happening in the next few weeks with all the tariff headlines that are going to be coming out. We're hitting all-time highs, so the price action is a little bit weird. NASDAQ head and shoulders. Yeah, if you zoom out, definitely could be a head and shoulders for sure. Here's that double tap of VWAP. Needs to hold on to VWAP here, or that bulldog is going to start getting invalidated. The exact tick on the low was too good to be true, I guess. Could have given us a absolutely textbook bulldog to the tick. Yeah, TDL, you can consider it if you're trading the pre-market. I like to see it get filled on the hours that I trade, so I like to see it get filled on the cash hours. Yeah, they're definitely respectable levels if you're trading the pre-market. Might have spoke too soon. It could still hold on to that 950 level to the tick. We'll see. Is it going to be the world's most textbook bulldog? We'll find out. Actually, I take that back. It's not textbook because you're on a high. If it was happening on a low, it'd be much better. But other than where it is on the macro, it's pretty textbook. Needs to hold above 50 though. Oh, took out 50. We'll see if you start getting a lot of sell pressure below this. You still have VWAP support on ES, and that's about it. I'd say complete invalidation would be like 92. If you stay below these last lows right here, that's the higher time frames taking over. We could consider this a short time frame sell-off, but as soon as you start staying below like this cluster right here, you're back below the previous high. You've basically lost everything. That's the higher time frames taking over. So invalidation completely would be like 93 to 92. Same level on NASDAQ would be 940 to 930 is your complete invalidation. Yeah, Bobby, it would be quite late, at least for my style of trading, right? If I wanted to be a short trader here, I would already be in a short. This is not a place to short for me. The place to be in a short would have been the bear div that I called out earlier. There was also a pivot retest there. That was probably your last opportunity to short. I also called out the rollover top, which was right here. As a reversal trader, you don't short moves like this. Like that's going against you. It's either the bear div, the rollover top, or there's a micro bear div there with the pivot. I forgot to mark out all these positions today. That was there was a morning sweep here. What did we have at the bottom? There was like a bull div there or something like that. There was something happening down there. I can't remember what it was. I believe it was a bull div. Yeah, it was a bull div. It was a bottom morning bull div. And then we had a bear div here. And that's pretty much it. This you could have said was a VWAP buy. That was a VWAP slash bulldog. And this is not really a trade. This is just the bulldog trade being invalidated. So there's two trades that you could be in right now. You could still be in the bear div short. It hasn't really invalidated your position just yet unless you got out at VWAP. Or you could be in the buy from VWAP, which was a bulldog, which is currently underwater. I don't really see any other positions here. Hey, C-Mac, have a good day, man. Okay, here comes that invalidation. So holding below 92 and holding below 940 to 930 is the higher time frame sellers taking over. And you can see that this is an invalidation point because look at the delta spiking. So the market agrees with me. Unfortunately, the Bulldog has been invalidated. So Bulldog has failed. Any buys off of VWAP have failed. The shorts are still in control. The bear div is still fine. The rollover top is still fine. And that's probably about it. There's not really any other signals here. I typically don't like to cover two sides at the same time. So I was trying to cover the Bulldog there. I don't want to confuse you guys by covering both positions at the same time. So now that the bullish trade is dead, I'll cover the bearish trade. So the bearish trade would have been the bear div, possibly the rollover top, possibly the late rollover top, which was that bear div here. I'll show you right here. That was the pivot retest I talked about earlier. So pivot retest, there was a very small bear div there. If I see any bullish triggers, I'll call them out, but right now you don't really have any. You have a possible Momo combo on the 1 minute, putting in a bottom warning and a pivot. But right now it's a stair-stepping pivot. So unfortunately, I do not believe... No, you did not. So you did not repair those single prints, and you also put in a poor high. Pivots are just momentum shifts, basically. They're levels that mark the momentum shift. That value retrace is nearly complete, or the rotation, I should say, going down to 900. That damn weekly open, man. That weekly open doing such a good job. It pulled us back into the weekly open to the tick, and now we're rotating back to that value low around 87. Okay, so right now, if you're in that bearish trade, you're looking for, well, if you're in the bearish trade or you're looking for a bullish trade, you're looking for the same thing. You're looking for a break in market structure. So higher lows, higher highs, break the 80 EMA, break VWAP, break the 24 EMA. You're looking for like big sweeps. You're looking for absorption, all that stuff, right? So right now you would be looking for potentially this higher low is threatening your position. You're well in profit if you're shorting, so you don't really care too much. But if it starts breaking back above VWAP, that would be putting in a higher low, breaking VWAP. Not a great sign. And you guys are starting to see why I stopped showing the OTS and Momo on stream. Because it becomes a never-ending answering questions about it. I think what I need to start doing is like having 1 day a week where I don't have like this workspace up, and we just have like a workspace kind of like this, and I just walk you guys through my Momo and OTS like 1 day a week. No, it's not your fault, man. It's not any individual person's fault that I get tired of answering questions. It's just a collective thing with the stream, right? So don't feel bad I'm not attacking you personally. It just becomes a collective thing on stream where I just get tired of answering the same questions over and over and over again. And it's why I stopped showing my bots on stream. I stopped showing my indicators on stream because that's literally every single stream was just the same questions over and over and over and over. So I just took them off the chart. I took them off the screen. But like I said, don't feel like I'm attacking you personally. It's more of a collective thing. Okay, so here's that break I was talking about. So that higher low turned into a VWAP break, turned into a 24 EMA break. So if you're trailing a short trade, you are now getting trailed out because pretty much all the levels you would be trailing are being hit. If you're trailing aggressively, you're done. If you're trailing VWAP, you're done. If you're trailing conservatively on the 24, you're done. If you're trailing on the prior high, you're done. If you're trailing the 30-minute low, you're done. There is almost no trail that is being protected here. Now, this is the worst case scenario for what I was saying earlier about the Bulldog. The Bulldog, I was saying the invalidation point was holding below 92, and then on NASDAQ, it was holding below 930 to 940. Now, we did not hold below those levels, but we did sweep them. So if you had your stops sitting in place, you are stopped out. If you were using more of a mental stop and you were waiting to see if it held below those levels, then you should be okay. But unfortunately, I think most people use hard stops, not mental stops, so you were most likely stopped out there. And you could tell a lot of people were stopped out there because look at the delta. When you started hitting that invalidation level that I talked about, look at the delta spike. And if I go down to a lower time frame here, it probably confirms it. Yeah. So look at the delta here. Just on a 1-minute candle, it spiked to negative 1,000. And it's a very bottom-heavy candle. So as you push down, you triggered a bunch of stops. So almost literally the exact level I was talking about, the 92 level. Look at the cluster here. So the market agrees that that was the invalidation level because it triggered a shit ton of stops there. 92 to 93, you have nearly 1,000 delta. So that's a good way to confirm your levels. If you have a specific level in mind where you think there's going to be stops being triggered, confirm it on the delta. So take a look at the delta and see if it's spiking. If it's not spiking, then there's probably not a lot of stops being triggered there. Okay, so moving forward, now what are we looking at? So the short trade is over. If you were in any shorts, that move was so aggressive, it took out your trails. Now, there's almost no point that you should have lost that trade. That should have been a healthy profit at every single point of that trade. If you took it at the best level, you're easily in profit. If you took it at the secondary level, you're in profit. If you took it at the third level, you're in profit. So at no point during that trade you should have been negative. So that was a good trade. Now that the trade is over, I'll try to cover the bullish trade here if it can hold this pullback. If it holds this pullback, you're putting in a higher low, possibly a rollover bottom, and it would go back into the Bulldog trade because the Bulldog trade did not hold below our invalidation point. So watch that 30-minute candle close. That 30-minute close, it's not really a Bulldog on ES. Watch it on NASDAQ. That 30-minute candle close hopefully needs to close above 950. The absolute invalidation is like 930. So if it can close above 930, that's okay. You really want to close above 950. All right, sorry, it's a lot to cover. I'm trying to cover all these different things at once. Yeah, Mike, have a good weekend, man. Yeah, 24 EMA is very good. Anything around 20 is pretty heavily used. 20, 21, 24. Not really protecting VWAP here. Looks like the sellers are still in control. They need to hold back above like 97. That was that prior low. Gave you a beautiful buy there. Gave you a attempted buy there, which failed. And now we're not using it as support. So a little bit of a bearish reclaim. Let's take a multi-time frame update here. Let's see what's going on. So 1 minute trap. This was a trap. The buyers are trapped. Giving you a little bit of a pinch. Failed to pivot on the 5 minute. There's that pivot on the 15. Pivot on the 30 is not locked in yet. So earlier when I said the pinch ended on the 5 minute, that was damn near the top. So 1 minute gave you a bear div confirmed by the 5 minute pinch coming to an end. Hey, maybe next week, maybe we'll do like Momo Monday or something. I'll show the we'll watch the indicators on Monday. Putting in a higher low here. So this level's invalidated, so we'll get rid of that level. This is the aggressive sweep level, so we'll keep an eye on that. Putting in a higher low. So I was giving the four-way chart to the Athena bot again and asking it for an update from what it said earlier. And it's pretty spot on here. It says the 50-minute and 30-minute time frames remain firmly bullish. The 5-minute is in a pause/pullback. The 1 minute is currently cooling off. The high odds sweet spot, talking about where the confluence is a pullback into 96 to 97, which is basically right here where VWAP is, with the 1 minute Momo reaccelerating to the north of zero. It's talking about the zero line of the Momo. It likes the 96 level as confluence because that's where the pivots are. That's where the trail is on the 1 minute, trail on the 5 minute. And there is trail on the 30 minute as well. And also where VWAPs are. So major confluence had 95 to 96. So yeah, it's spot on. This is what I call a pivot sandwich. We used to jokingly call it a pivot sandwich, and it just kind of became the name. Why we call it a sandwich is we have like a orange pivot here, and then we have like a blue pivot, and they kind of sandwich together, and they create like a support or resistance zone. So that's also where that kind of 95, 96 area is. So when you have multiple pivots, typically of different colors, sandwiched together, it creates like a zone. So that's that. There's that pullback. You pull back, put in a higher low on that sandwich. Turning into a 1 minute pinch if it can hold above this this local high. Yeah, the bot's getting a lot better. I posted a big update on the bot yesterday. If you guys are using it, make sure to refresh it. I gave it a big update on how it answers questions, making sure that it's relying heavily on the memory database that I'm building. So it will rely firsthand on the memory database, then it will go to other information, like maybe doing web searches or something like that after the fact. And then it will keep its answers very concise, because it was getting a little verbose. It was getting like it was over explaining things. So I gave it more of a directive to keep its answers very concise, using a lot of like bullet points and stuff. Like here's a good example. So like here you can see it's like bullet pointing and keeping its answers very short. It's because I updated it on how it's supposed to answer these questions. So it makes sure to give you a couple of bullet points, and it gives you a summary too. Like, so if you want to read like just a summary, it will give you like a summary. But yeah, big update yesterday, so make sure to refresh it. Ryder, those are just the pivots. So the blue pivots are the bottom pivots, the orange pivots are the top pivots. There's no other colors there. Yeah, that's the thing, is like I've been working on that bot for like what, a week and a half, 2 weeks now. Imagine the AI that people have been working on for months, if not years. So the pivots are basically the same thing. They're just color coded so you know which direction they're coming in. The blue ones will only form when momentum is shifting from the downside to the upside. And then the orange ones will only form the other way around. So the orange ones forms on tops typically, the blue ones form on bottoms. It's not always the case, which is why sometimes I call them stair-stepping pivots. Sometimes the candle can be like the formula will only put a blue pivot. If I remember correctly, I think it will only put it on technically a green candle. So if the candle changes to a red candle at the last moment, I don't think it will put it in. Let me double check. I think I might have fixed that. I think that was something that happened in the beginning that I fixed. Let me double check. Yeah, never mind. I take that back. I did fix that. That's how it used to work way back in the day. I did correct that. I haven't changed the formula on the OTS in how many years now? Coming up on like 8 years, I think. 7 to 8 years. So I forget the exacts sometimes. That's why the Momo and OTS are so strong. They've been tried and tested since 2018. And I have not touched their formulas since then. So they have been live tested for, like I said, 7 to 8 years. Probably like 6 to 7 years to be exact. Okay, so now we're breaking into a higher high. So higher low, higher high. Structure has been taken out. So that Bulldog is still intact here. Where did that 30-minute candle close? There you go. So I said hopefully it closes above 950. If it closes above 930, that's okay. So the close is 950 to the literal tick. 22,950.00. So Bulldog is still intact. So levels to keep an eye on to the upside. We have the poor high, we have the single prints, and we have the value retrace. So poor high would be around 10. Value retrace would be around 45. And single prints would be around 14 on ES. So this was more of a NASDAQ trade, but I'll mark it out on ES. That was the Bulldog. Okay, another update on the charts here. So earlier we had a Momo combo. It was a little dangerous until it broke back above that orange pivot. And then it retested it. So 1 minute going into that pinch, which is now coming to an end. 5 minute was a trap. You trapped the trail. Now it's back above the trail, obviously. 15 minute breaking the pivot. So it looks pretty good as long as it stays above 303. 30 minute, not really pinching anymore. It kind of lost the pinch, but still short-term momentum is very good. Holding the trail, and there's a pivot sandwich. So the pivot sandwich is the 300 pivot and the 302 pivot. So everything looks good for now. And here's a great place to take profit if you're in that long, which is that prior high. And then obviously you have the other levels that I just talked about. You have the poor high, you have the single prints, and you have the value retrace. Those are all the main targets for this bulldog. The absolute main target is the value retrace. So that would be into 45. And on on ES, that would be the same level would be probably around like 15 to 16. And then the full value retrace is 34. You could say this is a disgusting bulldog. Definitely not really a textbook bulldog, but it's kind of there. There's the double bottom, which is not a double bottom. It's more of a sweep, pop up, and then there's the pullback. Like I said, it's not really a bulldog. If you wanted to kind of fit it into that pattern, you could. So here's the unfortunate thing about this trade is if you did get stopped out on that first pullback, if you had your hard stop in place on the invalidation level, it stopped you out damn near to the tick. They grabbed that liquidity. They stopped out a lot of people. You can tell by the delta spike. If it stopped you out like that and then it immediately gives you the same trade afterwards, do you take that same exact trade a second time? Now that's completely up to you. I can't really make that decision for you. Some traders do. Some traders just say, oh, it kind of sucks. We got stopped out. Let's try again. Some traders are like, I don't really want to take the same exact trade that I just lost. So that's completely up to you as a trader to really figure out if it's worth taking a second time. If you did not have your stop in the system and you were using more of a mental stop, that should not have stopped you out because it literally bounced right away. So it came down to hit your invalidation level, but then it bounced immediately. So mental stop, you're okay. Hard stop, you got bottom ticked, unfortunately. And if you did take that trade, if you did get bottom ticked, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it. That was a pretty damn good trade. As you can see, it's working. You just unfortunately got bottom ticked. Trading is not easy, right? Trading sometimes is going to do that to you. It'd be like that sometimes, unfortunately. You said I'll get back in, but it's 50-50. Yeah. There's a lot of variables. It's really up to kind of what happened. Like, did you get stopped out because of a headline, because of a block trade? Like, what kind of stopped you out there? It's like I talk about in my tutoring sessions a lot when we're doing our trade reviews. I tell people, like, yes, you lost that trade, but that was a very good trade. Like, you can lose good trades. Trading is not 100%. You're not going to win all the time. You need to figure out if you're losing a bad trade, if you're losing a good trade. And that kind of comes down to like journaling, right? If you take that same trade 20 times, 100 times, whatever, are you net profitable? Do you have a positive expectancy on that trade? Yeah, it's another way you could do it. You could take the trade again, but you could take it on lower size. Yeah, it's completely up to the trader. There's really a lot of variables that go into that. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And I typically don't talk about mental stops because I don't think most people should be using mental stops. They're not disciplined enough. You really have to be very disciplined to use a mental stop. Like, for example, if your level is like 92 to 93 and you're using a mental stop, and that thing starts nuking to like 87, 90, you really need to get out of that trade. You can't wait for it to come back for so long, and then you're just losing twice as much as you wanted to. If you're very disciplined and you think that where your stop is has a high probability of being a wick zone, like where it's going to get wicked and then possibly come back, then you can use like a mental stop, right? But if you're using like a hard level that's not really going to get wicked, and it's a high probability of like a breakout, then you probably don't want to use a mental stop. But yeah, vast majority of new traders are not disciplined enough for mental stops, so I wouldn't even think about it. Why was it 950? 950 was a high volume node and like VWAP. There was a bunch of levels there at the time. I don't remember all the levels, but it was just a confluence. There was a ton of levels lining up at 950. I think there were some pivots there as well. There were just a bunch of levels. It was a big confluence. Okay, so we used up this prior level, so let's grab the more recent level, which is that doji right there, causing a little bit of a sweep on the high. That's where the 1 minute pinch came to an end. So how to determine where the 1 minute pinch is coming to an end? The short-term histogram gets topped out at 20, or sometimes above 20, and then it begins to pull away from it. So that candle where it began to pull away was the top doji to the candle, 1143. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the top. It just means that it probably needs to cool off a little bit. Yeah, that's how, when I say the pinch is coming to an end, that's what I mean. You made it to 20, and the short-term histogram has began to pull away. Look at that tape. Very red tape. A lot of sellers at 05, 04. But all right, guys, I'm going to call it. I think we've covered a shit ton today. I think we covered more than enough. We're going to call it a stream. I will be streaming for the rest of the day in Discord. Reminder, today is the last day to send me your June receipts, not July, just send June. If you want to get entered in the June raffle, I'm very behind on the June raffle. So be sure to send me those receipts. Here's my email. I will be pulling those raffle winners as well as the 20K sub milestone giveaway. We'll be pulling that at the same time. I'm going to be pulling those this weekend. So be sure to send me your receipts. Make sure I can see the invoice number, the date, and the size. Yeah, that's all I got. Speaking of Apex, 80% off code Brew. You guys know where to find the code. Free trial on Addis and Discord link down below. I think Monday what we'll do is, like I said, we might do a stream where we do like Momo Monday. I'll show the Momo and the OTS pretty much the entire stream. And I'll answer a bunch of questions on it. Because, like I said, when I show those indicators, I know you guys have a lot of questions and it's just never ending. So we'll do a day where I answer most of the questions. And then if people have questions later in the week, I'll just tell them to go back and watch Monday's stream. Okay, levels to keep an eye on. As I said earlier, you had the poor high, that target was hit. You have the single prints, that's around 13 to 14. And you have the value retrace. And that's mostly on NASDAQ. I believe the level is 47. 45, excuse me. The level is 45. You can front run that, I'd say to like 30. Because you want to front run that POC node. So I'd say probably closer to 30. Invalidation level is still around 50 to 30. So holding below 50, holding below 30, looking pretty damn bearish. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I got. I appreciate you guys being here. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I will be streaming the rest of the day in Discord, so I'll see you guys there. If you guys are not in Discord, enjoy your weekend. No promises on anything coming out this weekend. Possibly, if I have time, we'll make some videos, but no promises. That's all I got. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace, everybody. Oh, by the way, keep an eye on your emails. So if you guys win the raffle, I'll be sending you guys emails. I'm not going to send them out to everybody, just the people that win. So keep an eye on your emails, possibly late Saturday to Sunday. And if you win, you'll see an email from me. All right, guys, that's actually it. I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.